Okay. Um, so what I'd like to do is I'm going to run fairly quickly through some slides I put together. And if in fact anybody wants to throw comments or thoughts in, let's do it. This should be fairly quick because I think for everybody this is a repeat. Um, so um, this is a good time if you've had a big change in your situation to make sure other people are aware of it. We've had a little change in ours because of my having had a um, balance problem in the last year. But I think we're still in pretty good shape overall. I'm going to talk about the Oakmont study on evacuation, some changes to the emergency notification sites, and then fire safe preps. Okay, anybody have any comment they want to make at this point? Okay, the um, emergency, everybody I think knows we had an emergency evacuation study. What it basically said is if everybody's home in Oakmont, basically, and they call an evacuation, a full evacuation from Oakmont will take between 4.5 and 6.5 hours. Okay, and there's not a lot you can do about it. It's a little shorter if, in fact, Channel Drive were to be open, but basically it's the Route 12 problem, which means the best alternative is to leave early. Okay. They had two other conclusions. One is don't plan to come home and then leave if you've been separated. So if somebody's at the grocery store and it gets to be evacuation time, you're much better off meeting at some remote place. Okay. We have a couple of alternatives for us. One of them, there's a Pete's Coffee down in Nevada that we're both pretty used to. But the reason is because it just completely screws up the timing if people are trying to come home. If at all possible, take only one car. That's historically true for all evacuations. To repeat a sort of obvious thing, but it was obviously critical in 2020. The evacuation is what saves your house. That may seem a little counterintuitive, but first responders are chartered to prioritize life over property. So if they arrive in a fire and residents haven't evacuated, they have to focus on getting residents out, not saving property. And in 2020, the fact that there was nobody in Oakmont is what really saved Oakmont, because the first responders, the firemen, went right to the line with Elnoka and held the line. Okay, everybody should have as many of these on their cell phone as they can. Santa Rosa notifications come from something called Civic Ready. Sonoma County is coming from SoCo Alert. Napa is still coming from Nixle. And if you sign into Nixle, if you may remember, you are supposed to tell them your zip code. It's recommended to use the St. Helena zip code. That's the one that's closest to us. If you haven't discovered Watch Duty, go discover Watch Duty. It is a really good volunteers who are basically following everything that's going on, reporting it, and providing alerts. And
George,
also, yes,
George, can
yeah,
I
Ken.
speak for a second?
Yeah,
We were out of town and we watched the fire just north or south of Harrodsburg from afar and saw it go from 10 acres to 1,500 acres. But the watch duty was absolutely marvelous as to how that fire was progressing and how fighting it.
yeah. The other one is Pulse Point, which is only an app for the phone. Pulse Point reports the fire department and police department here in Santa Rosa and Sonoma County, and you can tell it to only tell you about fires. So you don't get, we just stopped the kid who may have had something in the car he wasn't supposed to. The details about how to find these and get them on your phones can be found at the Meet Your Neighbors website, which I've got here. And I will send everybody a copy of the slides just to make sure that anything I've got in the slides, you can just link by clicking, so you don't have to write them down. We've all been here, and we really appreciate the work in the Stone Creek Owners Association, but 5-foot clearance around the house, removing the flammable greenery like junipers, trimming bushes and trees so you don't have ladder fuels, and installing the 8-inch screens at crawl space and roof. Okay, now, when fire threatens, you need to remember to take flammable items inside, like your cushions on your patio furniture. And it was almost a running joke that at one point there were 7 different recommendations for what you do with your grill and propane tank. But the recommendation is, if you can do so safely, you want to move it 10 feet or so away from the house. Okay, meet your neighbors. It's a way to share what we know and protect each other. And the basics are simple. You need a plan. And that's particularly true if anyone in your household has difficulty evacuating. Okay, difficulty moving, difficulty getting in a car, whatever. Evacuate as soon as you feel uncomfortable. We've done it twice, and I will tell you, I'd much rather be sitting in the Safeway parking lot down in Sonoma than waiting in a 2-hour, 3-hour line to get out of Oakmont. Be sure someone has access to your house to be sure you're okay. I think everybody does, but that's extremely important. And know your immediate neighbors and be prepared to help them. After all, this is your neighborhood. So, I think everybody knows this, but the way we're organized, we have Meet Your Neighbor group leaders. Ken and I cover the Stone Creek. OSHA covers the west end down toward the sheep farm when they're there. Wendy and Bonnie cover the middle, and McAleer covers the end down toward the bridge. That means we've got about 50 houses, and that's good because we notify each other when we're seeing things that are important. Ken, myself, and Lynn are zone coordinators, which means we have a 2-way radio that works within Oakmont. That means we can talk to each other. We can also talk to the central ham radio operators who, in fact, are connected to the Sonoma County Emergency Operations. So if you went to the Sonoma County Emergency Station, there is a person whose job is to listen to the qualified ham operators. I think we have 3 in Oakmont that are qualified to be in the emergency. There is an emergency phone notification tree, which all of these people are part of. So if something occurs, the example was given of a shelter in place due to some sort of criminal activity. We should be able to notify everybody about that. Okay, wildfires. I think everybody that was on here remembers this, but the Tubbs and Nuns fire and the Glass fire all began in Napa with northeast winds that were high at ground level. Okay, and once a fire crosses Route 29 in Napa, there's just nothing to stop it from crossing the Mayacamas, Hood Mountain, which is when we're at the greatest risk. And in both 2017 and 2020, Route 12 was closed in one direction. 2017, you could only go west. In 2020, it was not very safe to go west. It was better to go east. Be sure to think about where you can evacuate if you can only go east or only west. on 12. A lot of us have a first reaction of let's go west and grab Route 101 and go someplace. Technically, wildfires from Annandale are not as much of a risk. We had a CAL FIRE chief out here, guys, must be like almost 15 years ago, who basically said it's so rare that you have high winds from the west at ground level that's not really the area of our worry. Now, that doesn't mean it's not a risk. It is a risk, but it's a much lower risk than the fires coming from Napa. And just to take it home, does anybody know where this picture was taken? The answer is Silver Creek, up the other side of the community garden. So this is when the fire engines arrived, and that's El Noka in the background. And that's when they were able to go and protect the houses, literally with their backs up against the fences. Moving on. Okay, we're all part of the Stonebridge evacuation zone. Okay, so if there are evacuations called, they call Stonebridge. Oakmont also has Oakmont South, which is the area up against the hill to the hillside of Oakmont Drive, and then Oakmont North. Pythian is mostly that's the temporary living quarters and things for over there. Okay, so steps. For the fire season, get your plan in place. Once there's a red flag alert, you're going to want to get truly ready. When there are warnings or orders anywhere at Oakmont, you'll go further. So, so step one, we did 9 steps last year. I will welcome anybody who wants to augment this. You want to sign up for all those apps. And also Shake Alert. That's the one that gives you 15 seconds head start if there's an earthquake, which actually can be fairly important because the majority of the injuries that occur in an earthquake occur from people who fall, not from things falling on people, but people who fall. So if you get an alert, you're supposed to drop and cover as much as anything else to make sure you don't fall. You can, in fact, tie directly into the police and fire in Santa Rosa. Purple Air gives air quality, and most of us, I think, have a NOAA alert radio. But the core ones are the 5 at the top. Check your equipment, flashlights, batteries. We discovered in 2017 that we sure didn't like flashlights. What we liked was area lights. And there are inexpensive area lights. And at Amazon, you can get 2 area lights for $14. Okay, they're just they bring light to an entire room. Maps. I've all gotten pretty well committed to the GPS maps, but if in fact we have an emergency, we may not have electricity or cell service. And so it's good to have some printed maps. We carry printed maps that cover Sonoma and Napa. You have an OK sign. You should have an OK sign, and decide where to put that if you evacuate. The idea behind that is so other people know that you're OK. I'm not going to go through this. It's important to write things down, as somebody said during this. In an emergency, rational thought goes out the window. So you need a go bag, pre-packed. Don't forget hearing aid batteries and chargers. A grab bag, items you add when there's a red flag alert. A list of supplies, medications, and medical supplies. With medications, think seriously about bringing the entire stock of your major medications, not just the next 2 or 3 days. In 2017, we were out of here 9 days. A list of what to do as you leave. list personal things you want to take. Okay, if you have pets, you need to be ready to handle them. And there are people who did not evacuate in 2017 and 2020 because they had a pet they couldn't find. Okay. Decide what to bring indoors and decide where to meet. And then you might want to read these various websites. The Oakmont Village MYN, the Oakmont Rainbow Women have a really good handbook of emergency activities. And then the original Map Your Neighborhood videos are interesting. It's hard to say interesting. They're useful. Once it's a red flag, know who's your monitoring team. Right now, Ken and I do that. But you should just call around and make sure somebody's keeping an eye on things. And if anybody gets uncomfortable, call around and start letting other people know that. You want to be sure your NOAA radio is working. Decide what TV you want to watch, what radio. You will want your cell phone so you can hear alerts. Keep it in your bedroom. And think about not taking your hearing aids out and maybe not using your CPAP machine so you can hear if there's an alert. If it continues to look challenging, check with neighbors. You want to put a car in the driveway. You do not want, under any circumstances, to have to worry about whether you can open a garage door. Get your flashlights and area lights and batteries out, and review what's your go bag, grab bag, and personal items. And corral any pets. If you have a cat and you have a cat cage, this is a point where people will put their cat in the cat cage. That's a lot better than not knowing what bed they're hiding under. Then if there's a warning, you want to plan where you're going. You may want relatives who are not in the immediate area to know where you're going ahead of time. We have a daughter in San Francisco who does that. Decide when you plan to evacuate and which way to turn on Route 12. And then after there's a warning, you want to finish packing, bring in your flammables, deal with your pets. And finally, leave. Try to notify some others who are here that you're leaving, so nobody has to worry about you. If you have a metal ladder, they recommend you leave it outside the house so the fire people have access to it. Close your interior doors and make sure your windows are closed tight. And they recommend one light left on inside the bedroom. So, final thoughts. We have been using email as the primary communication. Texting may work better. When there is limited cell service, it turns out texts get through much faster than other methods. So if anybody doesn't want to be texted, send me an email and I won't do that. Otherwise, I am going to put together a text list so that I can contact people and Ken can contact people in an emergency. And then after we evacuate, let us know whether you want to remain in contact. A slight diversion. There are some benefits if you qualify for medical baseline that are worth talking about. That's if you have a CPAP machine or any other medical condition that requires electricity. So if you do, let me know and I'll talk to you about what those benefits are and how you may use those in an emergency. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and now we are open for comments, questions. We have a suggestion from here.
The Stone Creek homeowners gave us a list with the phone numbers and emails, and a copy of that in your go bag is really helpful.
Okay, Marie was pointing out that you have a list from Susan and Dan about the, actually from the Stone Creek owners, about contact numbers for all the residents, and you might want to keep a copy of that in your go bag. That's a way of being able to contact people. We found during the 2017 emergency and 2020 emergency that in both cases, it was very helpful to talk to people who had a network, not to mention Christine, who owns half the fire station. Well, anyway, Christine.
I'm not saying anything.
Okay, any other comments or thoughts to share?
I was just curious why they recommend leaving a light on in a bedroom.
I'm not sure. I was just told that that was a recommendation.
Okay.
It may be that that allows them to potentially look in and see if there's somebody who may be, if you think about it, if you had somebody who was using a CPAP machine or hearing aids, you might have somebody who would need help.
I think it also identifies in very thick smoke that there's a house there. They'll see a light even though they may not see the outline of the house.
Yeah, good
Okay.
point.
Should we
All
leave
right, well,
the window covering open?
I would.
Yeah, when talking with Paul Lowenthal from the fire department, he had indicated that the reason they would really like it that your window, your shades or curtains are left open is so that they can quickly check if someone is or is not in the house. And like George was saying, their first priority is, of course, to save lives, but it makes it so much quicker to assess what is it they need to do if they can see right away that there isn't anyone in the house.
If you've put in the okay in your window, then hopefully they would just skip your house anyway.
George,
You know, the window panes can shatter when there's a fire outside, and then if your blinds or curtains are drawn, they'll catch on fire. So that's the other hazard. And that's why it's recommended you keep the curtains or window coverings open so they don't catch on fire.
okay, you
Sounds
guys,
like that would
remember
be a
one
good
other
thing to
thing
add to
that one other thing is that probably the power will be out. They ask you
Yes.
to put the light on, but chances are if the warning comes, they're going to cut the power long before
Yep.
they evacuate, right? Which is what's happened the last couple of times. So keeping windows open now, I mean, window shades and things open, that's a good idea, but the light.
Light may be quite irrelevant.
If you have the
and-
area lights that George talked about, those could be on because they're battery operated.
Yes.
Good
The
point.
ones we have are battery operated. And we also have some flashlights with rechargeable batteries, and we regularly recharge the battery to make sure if something happens, it's ready for us. I think everybody knows this, but there was a change about 4 years ago, and here in our area, we have a lower probability of a power outage unless it literally is in the middle of a wildfire. Okay. They undergrounded some key lines here to here. Okay.
George,
Well-
could you add to your presentation about keeping the curtains open?
Yeah.
In front of windows?
I will do that.
Does everybody have an okay sign or help?
Yes.
We do.
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
There's a question.
The okay sign.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. If
George,
there's, yes, Christine.
I just wanted to just remind everyone that Jackie, who lives here on Stone Creek Circle, is house and homebound. And I know that Virginia and ourselves too have said that, you know, we always want to make sure we check and make sure that she's taken care of, because if no one has been there to come or has made it to take her, one of us will have to, and she would require carrying her. It would require-
Yeah,
I think anytime you've got somebody with that kind of limitation, it's
Mhm.
important to be sure they're notified as soon as you're at least in the least uncomfortable. I've called Jackie when the fire crossed Route 29 to say, okay, we're now uncomfortable. Okay, she has a daughter in the city, in Santa Rosa.
Right, and she's been very good, I
Yeah.
guess, about,
But
Jackie
again, one
often
of-
said it's on the way, but what if she does, we just
Well,
want to.
and there's the problem when you're in the middle of an evacuation, they won't allow counter traffic.
Correct.
People are not going to be able to drive in to get you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you all. And
Oh, one more thing.
I have one more comment.
It's good to have your gas tank for your car full if we're in a serious red flag.
Yeah, just
situation.
I'm sure everybody else thinks of this, but you want your cars during all of this period, we don't let our cars go below half. And when you get into a red flag, we pretty much top the cars off. You got one electric and one gas, and so we work against that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
George and
Thank you,
Jan.
George.